So we're ready to start.
We're recording and we have the transcript activated as well.
Great. I'd like to call to order the May 17th meeting of the Palm Springs Sustainability Commission. Tracy, would you perform the roll call, please?
Prior to the roll call, I believe we have an announcement. And that announcement is that Commissioner Alex Ocañas notified us of her resignation. She's no longer able to be part of the commission because she has moved out of the area. For roll call, Vice Chair Friedman.
Here.
Commissioner Baker.
Here.
Commissioner Barrett.
Here.
Commissioner Evans.
Here.
Commissioner Futterman.
Here.
Commissioner Torrens. For the record, note that Commissioner Torrens is not on the call. Chair Clark, I turn it back to you.
Right. Thank you, Tracy. First, I'd like to welcome Deputy City Manager Flynn Fagg, Program Coordinator Tracy Sheldon, our commissioners, and our visitors. I'd like to express sadness that Alex has resigned from the commission. She did make good contributions on the dark sky effort that we were working on the last year. For visitors, there will be time for public comments later in the meeting. Please keep your microphones muted during the meeting, and please raise your hand to be called to speak and then unmute your microphone. The next item on the agenda is to accept the agenda. It was emailed and posted last Thursday, May 12th. Does anybody have any comments or corrections or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, then the agenda has been accepted. The next item is election of chair and vice chair. And you'll recall that we agreed a couple of months ago that because of the fact that the current chair and vice chair both end their time on the commission at the end of June, that we would elect a new chair and vice chair prior to the end of those terms, so that there could be some overlap between new officers and old officers. So we have nominees for both chair and vice chair, and I'd like to turn the meeting over to Tracy to run the election.
Thank you, Chair Clark. I also, for the record, want to note that Commissioner Torrens has joined us after the roll call. So Commissioner Torrens is in attendance.
Great, thank you.
We do have a poll here. So the first one is to vote for the commission chair. We do have a recommendation of Commissioner Don Barrett. The second vote is for vice chair, and we have Commissioner Randy Evans. So please select from those, and other would be if you're not selecting those who have volunteered. I also ask that those who are guests of our meeting to not vote. This vote is just for those members of the commission.
Point of order. I'm sorry to be legal about this. My recollection is that AB 361 requires all votes to be by public roll call. So would appreciate if that's been done. It can be done via raise of hands, but I don't believe that a poll is legal under AB 361. So I'd be more comfortable if we do a formal roll call of this. I think it could be presented as a slate, but I would ask that we do follow procedures. Once again, I'm sorry, but I did look at AB 361.
Okay. With that being said, I will go through each commissioner's name and ask for your vote for chair. Is that how you would like to proceed? Vice Chair Friedman?
Yeah, I'm fine. Or if there are no other nominations, it can be done as a chair and vice chair. If there are no other nominations, to simplify the process. I'm trying to keep it simple while following AB 361.
Absolutely. So by a raise of hands, can we see those who are in support of Commissioner Don Barrett as chair?
Yeah, I mean, all right, it's fine. I mean, we'll do this. If we can note for the record, this was done, whatever. I think it should be formally a roll call, but this is fine.
I'm sorry, I must have misunderstood. by formal roll call, one by one?
Yeah, but it can be done. I'm sorry. It should be done. I'm just trying to follow procedures for something that's specifically provided for in our governing ordinance. And AB 361 requires a roll call. It can be done very simply is if there are only two nominations for chair and vice chair, then we simply say Commissioner whatever, the slate is vice chair and chair, or chair and vice chair, and then do a formal roll call. Because it is covered in our ordinance, I just want to make sure we follow the procedures.
Understood. So we have for chair, Don Barrett, and for vice chair, we have Randy Evans. I will start with you, Mr. Friedman.
Aye for both, and thank you very much.
Okay. Let's see, I will go to Commissioner Baker next.
Affirmative for both candidates.
And Commissioner Futterman. Your vote?
Aye for both.
Commissioner Torrance?
Aye for both.
Chair Clark?
Yes, for both.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yes, for both.
And Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Okay, the votes are unanimous for both.
Thank you. Appreciate the attendance to formal procedure.
Well, congratulations to our new chair and vice chair. And I hereby turn over the rest of the meeting to Chair Barrett.
Okay, and I want to thank Commissioner Friedman for making sure that we are in alignment with the procedures. I know I can always count on him for that, but he's not going to be here. Okay, so we now move on to staff comments. So from Tracy Sheldon and from Flynn Fagg.
Staff is continuing to work on EV chargers, both with the previous request of whether or not the existing chargers can be transferred from SCE to DCE. So staff is working to identify the answer on that. City staff also met with Carbon Solutions Group today for on-site visits at the city maintenance yard, also the police department, and also the airport, looking for phase 2, and specifically for the maintenance yard and for the police department, those would be for city-owned vehicles only. The charges at the airport would be for the public. So we are working on that. Staff did advise Carbon Solutions Group of the desire of future phases to be operating off of DCE and not from SCE. So the future quotes will provide both the use of the SCE Charge Ready grants and also another option not including the grants, purchasing the equipment and operating off of DCE 100% carbon-free power source. Leaf blower enforcement.
If I can just address that, I did confirm with SCE and happy to put Carbon Solutions that this is a program that's available to everyone. So there is no requirement for the SCE Charge Ready that they use SCE power. This is a public benefit charge, so everyone pays whether it's SCE or DCE. So if you confirm that with that, and I'd be happy to do that. So there really shouldn't be any difference in the charge, except for the fact that, of course, DC carbon free is roughly 14% higher. But the grant should be available in either case. And I'm happy to check with put the Carbon Solutions folks in contact with Edison, but they did confirm that to me.
If we could request something to be provided that was in writing for that, just because Carbon Solutions Group has differing information.
Okay, I'll find the email that I received from Edison and then send it over, and you can potentially contact the person. She's the DC contact, but she can potentially put you or Carbon Solutions or engineering, whomever, in touch with the right people at Edison. but I'm happy to send that over after the meeting.
Thank you. Leaf blower enforcement. We continue to receive many concerns from residents on the use of gas leaf blowers. So for the month of May, we have 53 letters to create and mail out for violation of the city's ordinance. And we are still offering the program to landscapers to replace their gas-powered equipment with battery-powered. For sustainability scholarships, we have received an increase since the last meeting. Since our April meeting, we have approved 7 additional applications and have 12 new inquiries that are in the process that are still collecting their data in an effort to approve their applications. With the airport demonstration garden, we are working to obtain a timeline from the vendor as to when the sign can be delivered and installed. Once that date is complete, we'll be able to move forward with scheduling a ribbon cutting ceremony. And that concludes those updates for now. I do have updates on 1383 and foodware, but we will address those when we get to the solid waste portion of the meeting. Chair Barrett, I turn it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Sheldon, there we go. I was trying to think of the right phrase. Thank you, Ms. Sheldon. It was very helpful. Hopefully we'll see some of that in the minutes so we can have a good record of it. Mr. Fagg?
Mr. Chair, I don't have any comments at this point in time on the agenda. I will be making comments under the discussion of City Council priorities later on today's agenda.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, at this point then we are moving to public comments. So any, who am I? I'm not sure which direction to go. Do we have any comments from any of the public? Do any of the public wish to make a comment? Is that David? Is that okay? David, go ahead. David Anderson, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. I just wanted to introduce myself. There was supposed to be another person from Casa de Oro's new board of directors because we're finally moving into the 20th century and doing things the right way with sustainability, electric vehicles, solar panels, and even so far as to properly dealing with our trash and recyclable things, because the former board chose for many years to say, we're grandfathered in, we don't need to follow any of those rules. So I'm very excited to be here. I'm also a member on the Village Fest Commission, and I wanted to come and observe a couple of your meetings before I throw my hat in for possibly a commissioner role on your commission. That's all. Deborah Anderson is my counterpart liaison with our board, but I guess she was not able to attend tonight. No relation.
Thank you for your comment and thank you for your commitment to sustainability. Denise Anderson.
Yes.
Oh, hi.
Actually, David, I am here.
Good. I can't
So that's all right. I just wanted to introduce myself and to echo some of what David mentioned. And I have one question. At our condo complex, we're very interested in getting EV chargers for our units to use. You know, we have 96 condos there, so we think that could be a very good spot for EV. Is there someone at the city? Is this the group that we might talk to for some help in doing that, or how does that work? I'm just kind of asking an open question here.
Denise, I'm happy to assist you. If you could put either your phone number or your email in the chat.
Okay.
I'm happy to contact you tomorrow and we can have an expanded conversation of that, and I can advise you of the different grant opportunities there are out there.
That's particularly what I'm interested in, and also what is the process? How do we get going on it? So that would be great. I'll add that to the chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have 2 other guests here. Do you, either of you have comments? I can't, I don't see visual, so I'm not sure.
The other two guests, if I may interrupt, Chair Barrett, the other two guests are part of our consultant team from Recreate that are working
Okay.
on the foodware ordinance. So they are here in support and also to answer any questions
Thank
when
you.
we get to that portion.
Thank you. Okay, so I assume that means that we're through with the public comment section here. Okay. Presentation, there is no presentation. We're approving the meeting minutes from two different meetings. The April meeting did not have sufficient members present. We didn't have a quorum to approve the minutes from the March meeting. So we're approving the minutes from the March meeting and also the minutes from the April meeting. Doing them separately. Do I hear any concerns about the March meeting minutes? Hearing no concerns about the March meeting minutes, I will assume that that is unanimous approval of those minutes. Okay, now about the April meeting minutes. Are there any concerns about the April meeting minutes? I see no concerns there, so we will approve those unanimously also. Consider those to be approved unanimously. Thank you. Okay, old business. City Council priorities and work plan process.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Happy to join you this evening after what was a very rough April for me personally, but happy to be back and happy to be here with the Sustainability Commission. In terms of the City Council priorities, we've had this discussion several times at past meetings. City Council held their study session back in February to identify their priorities. And as we've discussed, sustainability is basically 25% of their focus in terms of all of the city departments and functions. And so sustainability, again, is a very high priority for our City Council. With that, we have a very limited staff. Right now, we're down to a staff of one, and I can't say enough about Tracy Sheldon in terms of what she's been able to accomplish and maintain during this period where we have not had staff to assist us. She's done a yeoman's job of keeping things moving and keeping things running. So I just want to say kudos to Tracy for all that she's done over the past 5 months while we've been without a director in that position. And that leads me to the first point. One of the primary priorities of the City Council is that in order to get these priorities accomplished, we need additional staff. And so staffing is our primary focus right now in terms of accomplishing the priorities. We recently had opened the position for the Director of the Office of Sustainability. We had a total of 13 applicants who are qualified for the position. And on last Wednesday and Thursday, we held panel interviews for the finalists. We have narrowed that down to a field of 4 finalists for the director position. I expect that we will have a decision and an offer on the position before the end of the month. And so that process is moving along very quickly. Along with that, the City Council identified the need for 2 additional staff members. And for the purposes of our discussion, we're calling those sustainability associates. We're still in the process of working with our Human Resources Department to finalize the job description and the title for those positions. But essentially, those will be the 2 positions that we are proposing for funding as part of our next year's budget. Our budget starts on July 1st of every year. City Council has already held 2 study sessions on the budget, one in particular about the budget as a whole, and then one focused on capital projects. They do have additional meetings to discuss the budget, but as part of that, we are including those 2 sustainability associate positions as part of the budget. What I anticipate is with the approval of the City Council, we will hire or put out the notice for the first sustainability associate position, get that position filled, and then in about 6 to 8 months, we will then hire the second sustainability associate. So again, hiring and making sure that we have adequate staff to accomplish priorities is one of the things that we are focused on right now, and we're making excellent progress with that. Again, we hope to have an announcement on the director position towards the end of May. In terms of other things that we are working on right now, the franchise agreement, and in particular, this is relative to the City Council of priority of implementing Senate Bill 1383. The franchise agreement is scheduled to go before the City Council for their first discussion and review of it on May the 26th. We have been working under the direction of the City Attorney's Office with Palm Springs Disposal Service on that. This is not going to be a quick item, if you will, for the City Council to review and approve. We do have in our schedule that City Council may see this up to 3 times in order to finalize the terms of the agreement. And so that does take staff time for us to work and accommodate the comments and the recommendations of the City Council as we go through that process. And again, working very closely with the City Attorney's Office on that. With the approval of the franchise agreement, then we have the rollout of the additional services that PSDS, Palm Springs Disposal Service, will be providing, and we'll be working with them on that. Our second area of focus after the franchise agreement in terms of projects is relative to making sure that we get current capital projects finished and have those rolled out to the public. As Ms. Sheldon has already mentioned, our EV chargers, our phase 1 of the EV charger project is well underway, and we're working on getting that implemented. Appreciate the assistance of the engineering division in assisting us with that. And then, as she's also mentioned, the airport demonstration garden, we are looking at getting that finalized and having the groundbreaking for that. Once we have information on the groundbreaking, Ms. Sheldon will share that with the Sustainability Commission so that they can participate in that activity as well and be highlighted in terms of that project. In terms of other projects that we have as City Council priorities, there's a few of them that we're waiting for the new director so that we have the new director's input on those projects. There's also some details of other projects that we're working on. For example, the purchasing policy that needs to spend some time here at the Sustainability Commission before we bring that back, and we expect that the new director will work with you on that. We also have enforcement of the foodware ordinance, which is one of the other priorities of City Council. The new director will be working on that. And then one of the other things that we do have underway right now, we do have additional work to do on our greenhouse gas analysis. We are working with our consultant to establish the cost for those additional measures that we would like to study. And so we do have that in process right now. So those are the things that we're working on. Again, staffing is our primary issue right now. Once we have a new director and a sustainability associate in place, we expect to be able to at least double our capacity and be able to work on all the priorities that the City Council has outlined. I do want to follow up on one additional thing. The Sustainability Commission had worked on construction and demolition debris measures that the Building and Safety Department will assist us with in terms of diverting construction waste from landfills. The final component of that goes before the City Council shortly, and those are the fees associated with applicants who do not divert sufficient waste. And so we will have those fees in place shortly, and we'll be able to implement that. And with that, Mr. Chair, that completes my report. And again, thank you for having me here this evening.
Okay, thank you. It's very helpful there. And some of it are things that I'm going to want to know more about down the road. So that's fine. Next on the agenda is the smoking ordinance. Commissioner Baker.
Yes, so we passed the smoking ordinance on to the Human Rights Commission for their final approval. They had no edits or changes. They dropped it back to us. So we're ready to present it as is to the council.
Good. Okay. Are there any additional comments on that?
I just have a very quick question, Mr. Chair. Mr. Baker, the smoking ordinance, does that need to come back to Sustainability Commission if there's any changes at the other commission?
There were no changes at HRC.
No changes. Okay, just
Just
wanted to know in
They
case.
just met last week.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Commissioner Clark, did you have a comment?
No, I don't.
No, you don't. Okay. All right. So that looks like it's ready to move forward. Okay. We'll have to figure that part out. All right. New business, the fun part, challenges for boards and commissions. This is a multi-page document that we have received talking about the overall directions of boards and commissions. It's been shared with the other commissioners, and we need to process our thinking about those challenges and how we're going to respond to them in some way, shape, or form. Since Commissioner Clark and I had been working on those together to some extent at one point, and he's a little more attuned to that, I will turn most of this over to him.
Thank you, Mr. New Chair.
Mr. Chair.
This is something we learned about right before the last commission meeting, and we had a little bit of a discussion at the end of the meeting about the challenges that had been brought up by the city council and the city manager. At that time, Tracy sent out a staff report which listed the challenges that were supposed to be discussed at the next commission, the next city council meeting. And the meeting was that item was removed from the agenda at that time, but the challenges were discussed at the city council meeting last Thursday, which was the 12th of May. One thing that was emphasized when we learned about the challenges is that there was a plan to have a study session with the commissions to discuss the challenges and to get responses from the commissions on the various challenges. At that time, it wasn't clear to me just how that study session was going to be set up, and I don't think that's been finalized yet. But Don and I decided that it would make sense for us to present a formal response, a written response to the challenges from the Sustainability Commission. So what we did is we got together and we went through all the challenges and came up with a draft response. And the intent this evening is to go through those responses one by one and discuss them and see if there's any changes that you, the commissioners, would like to make to the responses. And then once that is done, we will send our written response off to the city manager and the city council. And then depending upon the format of the study session, we'll likely have opportunity to discuss the responses during that time. So Tracy sent out early to you the draft of the responses, and in the agenda packet, the draft responses are also there, as well as the staff report that went with the city council meeting last Thursday. Hopefully some of you had an opportunity to watch the city council meeting and hear the discussion that they had. I really don't want to dwell on the staff report at this time, but Tracy, if you could put up the draft responses that Don and I wrote, then we can start going through them one by one and get your feedback. So this is the beginning of the draft responses, and the way we set this up is that on the left, in the left column, are the challenges that are listed in the staff report and that were discussed by the city council, and the recommendation. In the right column are the responses that Don and I developed to present to you and to have a discussion here. And the way the responses are crafted is that we first respond specifically to the recommendation that is made in the staff report and is listed in the left column of this page, of these pages. And then we follow with some additional comments in most cases, basically to provide additional information about things that the commission has done over the years that support some of the challenges or raise additional issues. And so those are things that we would especially like to get feedback on. So I am not going to read all of the text in each box on the left. But we will go through the boxes on the right in more detail. The first one is challenge 1, which really relates to the alignment of boards and commissions and the city council, and the role of the boards and commissions in working with the city council. So the recommendation or the response is that the Sustainability Commission supports the recommendation to align ordinances, bylaws, and practices to emphasize advisory roles. And that was one point that came out in the challenges, is that advisory roles are really done in a limited way. And we added the comment here, and it relates back to something that was reported by Mr. Fagg, is that administrative work required to enforce organics disposal and foodware requirements will be performed by additional sustainability staff the city plans to hire. It really aligns with the fact that we're not proposing doing administrative work, but additional staff will probably do additional needed administrative work.
Yeah, Roy, let me interject here. Okay. Can we tag back and forth a little bit?
Yes, of course.
Okay. When this had come up, I saw this as mainly focusing on commissions where the commissions do some direct work other than being advisory. And that did not seem to apply to us. So that wasn't a major concern to me. And I think the response that Roy and I have there is fine. Is there concerns from others about this particular challenge? I see Carl's head shaking no. Okay. Roy, you want to introduce number 2?
Number 2 relates to the the size of boards and commissions. They vary in size from 5 to 19. Larger commissions sometimes struggle with attendance, continuity, and efficiency. Our commission currently has a roster, or has per ordinance 11 members that are required. The recommendation was to reduce the commission number to 5 or 7 members. And the response is that the Sustainability Commission supports the recommendation to reduce the number of members on commissions. The Sustainability Commission should be reduced to 7 members, including chair and vice chair. And that was what Don and I recommended. And we explicitly wrote for discussion, do you agree with this number of members? 7. Is there any discussion?
I go ahead, Carl.
My only concern is with quorum for lower numbers. So if we have 7, it's just 2 people are out and you don't have a quorum.
Actually, if you have 7 members, 4 will constitute a quorum.
Only 4? Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's what we've had sometimes with Planning Commission that has 7 members, or Architectural Review Committee with 7 members. 4 is enough to do business if you vote affirmatively on the items.
Stand corrected.
And our current roster is 7, excuse me. So the
Right. Randy, you had a comment?
Just I would lean towards more on the smaller side. So 7 is fine, but definitely wouldn't be looking to increase the size.
Okay. David?
Yeah, 7 is also fine. I would just note we'll be down to 4 after the three term ends on June 30th. It's covered elsewhere, so I won't talk then. But traditionally, this is the commission that's really one of the hardest working, and I think council has said that. that just puts the burden on council to find members, new members of the commission who are willing to sort of carry the weight. Obviously, with the new staff members, that was a question I was going to raise in my comments at the agenda item. So thank you, Director Fag, for Vice Chair, Deputy City Manager Fag for clearing that up. That we'll have folks there, but there's a lot of work to be done, and so I just think that 7 is fine, but people should be aware of the workload. Commissioner Baker, you're a perfect example of your non-smoking ordinance you've been carrying literally for years. I obviously have been working on quite a few ordinances, and I'll mention that. Dark sky. So we're a bunch of worker bees. And that's fine, but so that it's just going to be a fairly large workload that the commissioners will carry. And I don't think that even with staff, I think the commissioners will continue to be looked at of city council of saying, we're the ones who are going to be actually doing the research, looking at what other cities are doing, benchmarking and coming up with proposals. Well, just a fair point, but other than that, I support the 7.
As Roy had noted, the city is considering instituting working groups that can be assigned for specific tasks that are somewhat different from subcommittees and do not have to be all commissioners, which would be some way to address some of those types of issues.
And that point is there in the response. I think there's already a move to start working groups. I believe that there's one for vacation rentals, and that's something that I think is of interest to the council. So that would fill the slack in many cases when we needed more people to work on specific projects.
And it has the advantage of bringing people in who want to focus on something specific, but don't want to commit to doing multiple years of being a commissioner. So, Jake, did you have any comments? Or Commissioner Futterman?
I'm sorry, would you say that again?
Oh, is the 7 reasonable to you?
I think that's reasonable.
Good, okay. All right. I think we're there.
Moving on to challenge 3, it relates to commission meeting times. And it starts out that all commission meetings were instructed to be held at 5:30, but it creates some scheduling conflicts and makes logistics for hybrid meetings more difficult. The recommendation is to allow commissioners to schedule meetings at other times. There's some history there. The Sustainability Commission historically had been meeting at 5 p.m. and we made an adjustment in 2020 to 5:30 p.m. when that was the request by the City Council to have meetings in the evening. And the objective there, as you may have heard in the discussion at the council meeting last week, was to make the meetings more available to people who worked during the day, both for people who wanted to be on commissions and people who wanted to attend commission meetings. So the response here is that the Sustainability Commission supports creating flexibility in meeting times with the emphasis that we have historically met at 5 and are currently meeting at 5:30. What is your recommendation for meeting time? The question to the commissioners. Carl?
Roy, Carl. So I get off work at 5, so 5:30 to me is much more convenient than trying to log on by 5 p.m.
If we return to in-person meetings, Carl, would 5:30 be, is there enough flexibility for that?
Yeah, no, 5:30 is fine. It's just 5 is pushing it a little. You gotta leave a little early, and some days it's fine, and some days you just can't.
Okay.
David?
This doesn't directly concern me as a commissioner, but I do now have a day job, and I do plan to continue to attend the commission meetings either on Zoom or when you go into sort of hybrid meeting, log on channel 17. So would prefer also 5:30 so that I can watch live. I usually have sort of last set of emails for folks between 5 and 5:30. So 5:30 would be my recommendation, or to the continuing commissioners.
Any other comments?
5:30 is okay with me. It's actually, I would prefer earlier, but considering what others have contributed to the commission, it seems that 5:30 is perfectly fine. I did want to note that in the city council's discussion of this particular challenge, there was a focus by one council member about making sure that committees are accessible to the public in some form, not necessarily that they can always attend the meeting, but at least can have input into the meeting in some way. And I guess if we stayed at 5:30, that should be no problem.
And this is something I think that the council will determine subsequently, following the study session, whether or not they will allow more flexibility, but we can bring forth our recommendation to them in this document. So we move on to number 4.
Sure.
This relates to boards and commissions having varying practices with bylaws, use of subcommittees and other practices. The response from the Sustainability Commission is that Sustainability Commission supports creating templates with the expectation that there will be flexibility in tailoring practices to each subcommittee. And I did want to point out, and Tracy, if you can skip down a few pages, there are 2 documents which the commission had developed a few years ago. One is relating to product workflow, and that's something that Patrick and I worked on early on after he joined the staff. And I believe it has been sent to the commissioners who were added to the commission most recently. And others of you probably were there when we were developing them and discussing them in meetings. So there's one on workflow, which really talks about where the sources of projects come from. Some come from up above, like Senate Bill 1383 for organics collection. Some come from the council, like the foodware ordinance, and some come from grassroots, like the battery recycling project. So this gives information in terms of how projects come about and how they're worked through. And the next document is the agenda development process. And this talks about how on a month-to-month basis, the agenda is developed with input from the commissioners and from the staff and from the chairperson. So the point here is that we can provide these documents to the city manager and the city council, which may help in developing the templates that they're considering developing. Is there any discussion?
My main point would be that those 2 documents are very helpful documents, and hopefully we can continue forward with them. Or, I mean, we can continue forward with them regardless, and hopefully the template acknowledges such processes.
And going through them again recently, I can see where they need to be updated, but that's something that can be done, going on with future staff people and future commissioners.
Right. Okay.
If there are no other comments on challenge 4, we can move on to challenge 5. And this relates to expectations regarding conduct, media relations, stakeholder engagement, working with external jurisdictions, representing commissions with outside groups, representing the city. expectations are unclear. And the recommendation is to create a template outlining expectations. And the response proposed for the commission is that the Sustainability Commission supports creating templates with the expectation that there will be flexibility in tailoring handbooks to each commission. Any comments?
I was somewhat surprised when I saw this challenge. It apparently refers to commissions that have exercised working with outside sources in a way that wasn't very clear with either other commissioners or with city or with council or with staff. And so it seems to me to be a generally good idea. I guess my only concern is like when we were working with like Palm Springs Disposal, to make sure that whatever they come up with a template makes it easy for us to work with those sorts of organizations.
One thing that I can personally add is that on a couple of occasions over the years, I've been at meetings or events where the press has been there and they interview people, potentially putting them on television.
Mhm.
Judgment was that I shouldn't say anything because I was a commission member, but that's something that really could go into handbooks to make it clear for all commissioners.
I think that would help. Okay.
Yeah, I would second that, Roy. And I've been thinking for myself, if I wanted to engage with some kind of community group, what type of role could I play if I attended, for instance, or asked to attend a Chamber of Commerce meeting? So information like this would be helpful in informing the role that we can play. I think similar to what Roy was saying about media.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you for saying that, because I had not really thought about it until Commissioner Evans mentioned it, that I'm secretary of 1PS and handle their website, and that probably creates some things that I need to be paying more attention to, and this will help with that.
And Mr. Chair, I might just also offer some comment here. In the issue of Planning Commission, we often have applicants who contact members of the Planning Commission directly prior to a public hearing item. There are specific things relative to applicants contacting board or commission members relative to what we call quasi-judicial items, et cetera. So it's a little bit different from board to board. But as you've discussed, media is another thing that we often have commissioners who are contacted directly by the media. The preference of the city manager is that all media requests go through our communications director. So this is an area where it's a little bit different from the different commissions, but I think it would be helpful to have certain guidelines in place. And as you've said on a number of occasions, tailored to each specific commission and their responsibilities. So certainly I think City Council can be appreciative of that.
Thank you, Flynn. Are there any other comments on Challenge 5? So we'll move on to Challenge 6. Board and commission members often lack clarity on roles, responsibilities, and important rules such as the Brown Act. Recommendation is to ensure onboarding materials, i.e. when people come onto a commission, cover this content, and there is annual training to provide staff liaisons and commissions. So the proposed response from the Sustainability Commission is that the commission supports developing onboarding materials that cover the content specified. Donna and I thought that a frequently asked questions sheet would be helpful. And we did want to point out that the commission has had training on the Brown Act and conflict of interest at commission meetings by the city clerk on request. This has been limited training, but we have had the city clerk come and provide information about both of those things. And we did add a comment that referring to the annual training that was held in January 2020. Some of you may have been there, perhaps Carl or David or Jennifer. I was, and I just would add, we put the statement that it should be more substantive than that held in January 2020. I felt that there really wasn't much to go on in terms of roles and responsibilities and conduct at meetings in that in that training session. I could go into more detail at another time if anybody wanted me to. Are there any comments on number 6?
Chair Roy, I have a comment. It's Carl speaking. So the city used to hold a meeting at the convention center for the Brown Act that was a little more substantive. I believe it was actually, was it 2 days or at least a day and a half? But obviously COVID kind of put the kill on that. Flynn, do you know if the city is planning to go back towards that program where they invited all commissioners to meet at one time at the convention center for training?
Yes, I do believe that we will. We're getting to the point where we're getting ready for that, based on the fact that we can see that City Council has gone back to in-person meetings and things like that. So I do anticipate more in-person opportunities for training, especially as we look at modifications to our boards and commissions. There will be the need for training. And so I anticipate following the City Council study session, we might look for training within the next couple of months following that, especially as we bring on new board and commission members, typically June 30th, July 1st of every year as well.
Thank you. David?
Yes, thanks. Particularly since I won't be around to provide real-time Brown Act guidance. You can always sort of ping me, but I clearly support the need for additional training for a handbook that deals with the Brown Act, Public Records Act, which and the Political Reform Act, all of which are applicable, and then obviously annual trainings to sort of reinforce that. But the training should also cover the city's own ordinances, which would be the Public Integrity Ordinance. And Chair Barrett, that's where you'll need to pay attention to the fact that you're also on the board of 1PS. So you'll need to sort of note the potential recusal requirements there. And then a point that I previously raised, but it'd be covered in the handbook and training, would be the new social media policy. So there's just a lot to cover. The city has put in requirements in its own ordinances and policies, but hasn't trained anyone on it. So I do think that training is necessary for both the state rules and then the city's own rules.
Any other comments on number 6?
Thank you to David for what he pointed out.
Now we go on to challenge 7. And actually, I think challenges 7 and 8 probably elicited the most discussion by the city council. There's a lot of substance there. Basically, challenge 7 states that boards and commissions often lack strategic direction from council. This leads to confusion and frustration as commissions struggle to meter the volume of work and produce recommendations that council is willing and ready to act on. The recommendation is to create an annual cycle of strategic planning that coincides with the council's strategic visioning. And we experienced the first strategic planning last November. So the recommendation, draft recommendation, is that the Sustainability Commission supports creating an annual cycle of strategic planning. This may be more useful for some commissions than others. And then we added some additional information to support our position. And interestingly, the next point came up in the council's discussion last Thursday. By nature of the discipline, the Sustainability Commission attracts members who have a passion for conservation and environment-related issues. Historically, the Sustainability Commission has been successful in developing projects from grassroots initiatives, communicating with the council, and having plans accepted by the council. Some examples are differentiation of trash and recycling containers downtown in parks, battery recycling, and recommending solar panel installation on new houses. Sustainability commissioners often have interests and talents that complement those of council members. This may be interpreted as conflict. Commissioners may have expertise or insight into neighborhood needs that might not be visible to council members. Are there any comments on the recommendation or the additional comments here? David?
Sorry about that. I'll cover this in the next one. Good suggestions. I think there is definitely need for annual strategic planning with council. The advantage that we have is that we actually created, or Patrick created, but we all provided input on it. We have a climate action roadmap, and the state clearly has set goals of where they want everyone to be, the 40% by reduction by 2030 and 80 by 50. So I think in our case, perhaps a combination of annual formal updates of the roadmap where we can get direction from council and then carry out the initiatives, plus quarterly updates is I think a winning formula. Certainly in my case, my 2 ordinances, and I'll address them in my solar green building report, were specifically covered saying this is what's coming up. Do you support continuing work? And the council clearly provided direction on those. So I think we have an advantage, and that would be a good framework, particularly since the state has literally told us where we need to go, and we should be checking in annually with council to make sure we're carrying out those actions and get their direction. So annual update, that could be the sort of the format for it. And then quarterly reports.
Thank you, David. Are there any other comments?
I think it important to note, if for those who haven't looked at it, that challenge 8 complements challenge 7, and it's challenge 8 where they specifically mention quarterly reports. So the two fall together. I had initially thought that considering how things come to sustainability, that an annual update may be problematic because we don't know when the legislature is going to do something. But I think how David framed it fits with how we would need to do it, that we have a map and that it falls within that map, and it might be that within a quarter we have to update on something.
Are there any other comments? Now we'll move on to number 8, which has been pointed out is closely connected to number 7. The challenge is that commissions report feeling disconnected from council and unaware of how information is exchanged. Council members have sometimes served as direct liaisons to commissions. That was discussed quite extensively at the last Thursday. The recommendation is to create a process whereby active commissions create and submit quarterly reports to council. So the draft response is the Sustainability Commission supports creating a process whereby commissions create and submit quarterly reports to council. This seems to implicitly acknowledge the value of commissions. It would formalize what has been generally a good process for the Sustainability Commission. And some added comments are, historically, the Sustainability Commission has had a good working relationship with council members, both formally with designated liaisons and informally. Examples are collaboration on the leaf blower ban, foodware ordinance, climate action roadmap, and requiring commercial businesses to purchase renewable energy. Council members have attended commission meetings and waste reduction subcommittee meetings. A study session was held with a council member in May of 2018. And I'd like to go a little bit further with that in terms of the working relationships that we've had. The leaf blower ban was something that I worked on when I first got onto the commission in 2016. And Jeff Kors, Councilmember Kors, is the only current council member who was on the council at that time. And he was very aggressive in terms of making recommendations. He pushed for having a brochure. He pushed for making sure that we had ways of providing incentives to gardeners to get additional or to get electric leaf blowers. And we had a really strong relationship with him throughout that time. And the foodware ordinance and the climate action roadmap, I wanted to mention specifically, David referred to the climate action roadmap. There was one meeting a few years ago where Chrissy Holstage came to our commission meeting, and we discussed both of those things in quite a bit of detail. And she gave her recommendations. And one thing I remember asking her was, do you have a deadline by which you would like us to provide information or provide drafts to the council on these things? And at the time she said no, she felt we were doing a good job and she appreciated being informed and being able to make comments. I know Christy also attended a waste reduction subcommittee meeting when we were talking about the foodware ordinance. And the study session that was held in May 2018 was with Council Member Course. Any comments?
I'm trying to figure out how to say it. We have to have two-way communication with council. And sometimes we may not always agree with council, and somehow that doesn't come out in any of these challenges as to how you negotiate it when council doesn't. Council has an agenda or a perspective that our experience doesn't fit with it. Am I making sense? I know that's an awkward topic.
But if our role is advisory, it wouldn't matter. So we simply advise. It's like advising the president. He or she may not accept whatever you may have advised them to decide, because the ultimate decision lies with them. They are the elected representatives, not us.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a good way to put it. Thank you, Carl.
Are there any other comments?
So first off, I'd like to say thanks to both Don and Roy for doing these. I agree wholeheartedly with our responses. In regards to number 8, and this is probably for future when we actually have more staff, is that, you know, for something like a quarterly report, to either have an expectation from council on a template for that, or we devise our own so that staff isn't like necessarily burdened with having to do these quarterly reports when hopefully they would be spending their time doing other important work. So just kind of streamlining the reporting for something like this, I think would be helpful. But obviously, as staff come on in the future, that could be for discussion for us and how to accomplish that with them.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Are there any other?
Comment.
Yes.
I will be leaving at the end of June also, but this proposal to have an annual meeting between council and the commissions, I think is a great idea. So I wish that we would have had that opportunity while I was serving. So.
Thank you. Hearing no more comments, we can move on to challenge 9. This has to do with commissions often have ideas for engaging in additional work, creating subcommittees, creating communications content and other work that goes beyond researching, drafting, and presenting policy recommendations. Recommendation to outline in a commission handbook that staff is committed to assist the work of the commission, but is empowered to adjust and meter work. This basically is like, I think, challenge number 7, but relates to the commission's working with staff as opposed to working with city council. And the draft response is that the Sustainability Commission supports the recommendation that staff should assist the work of the commissions, but can adjust or meter work. And it's stated here, the challenge is much like challenge 7, but creates potential conflict between commissioners and staff. There needs to be clarification of roles of the Sustainability Commission versus those of staff, especially since a new director and additional staff members will be added next year or the following year. And one other thing that we added here, which relates back to the priority sessions, which we wanted to make a note of, is that the involvement of planning, engineering, and parks and recreation in sustainability activities, which is included in the council priorities, needs to be formalized and managed. Are there any comments?
I have nothing to add on that myself, so.
So we'll move on to challenge 10, the last one. And this is commissions like city council can sometimes have tension between the roles of individual members and the commission as a body. Recommendation: outline in a commission handbook expectations for conduct and emphasize the limited nature of individual roles. Draft response is the Sustainability Commission supports the recommendation to outline conduct and definition of roles in a handbook. Historically, there have been conflicts with a few Sustainability Commission members working outside of the commission meetings. I can attest to that. The Sustainability Commission chair and the Sustainability manager attempted to coach members and minimize conflict. It wasn't always successful. Therefore, a handbook would be useful. The Sustainability Commission chair and sustainability staff provide information to commissioners to facilitate group decision-making at monthly meetings. This is a recognized leadership role. I think I can point back to our meetings as long as I can think back, that we've had a good relationship with staff in terms of they're providing information about things that are coming from the council, what's going to be discussed at future council meetings, and educating the commission members on different issues so that we could be in a better position to make decisions. One thing that was added also is that commission candidate interviews should better align candidates' interests and abilities with commission and council priorities. The commission chair should have input into selection of candidates for interviews and final selection of commissioners. I do want to add, I have participated in interviews for commissioners for several of you that are now on the commission. And I think that that was very helpful, and it was appreciated by the council members who were doing the interviewing. But in addition, it might be helpful to have input to the selection of candidates for interviews so that the interests of candidates can be better aligned with the priorities of the commission and the council. Are there any comments?
Roy, I didn't catch this when we were looking through these together. I would like to try to find some way to make this more inclusive of both the chair and vice chair of the commission. I can't think of an immediate way to put that in here, and I haven't discussed it with the incoming vice chair. But I would like to make that clearer here somehow.
That sounds good. If you two could talk soon. Seems like there's not much else that would be changed in the document. So if you could provide input to me,
I think if you just want to add, Roy, you know, where it says something like commission chair, you could just add and vice chair. I'm fine with that.
Does that work for you, Don?
It should, yeah. I'll read through it later and see if there's any problem with that, but it looks like it should work fine.
Okay, so if you'll confirm that with me, then I'll go ahead and make any changes. And then Don, you and I can review it before you send it off to the city manager and the city council. So
Okay.
we've gone through all of these challenges. I really appreciate the comments and the insight from everybody. I think this, I firmly believe after 6 years, and I think many of you would agree, especially David and Jennifer, that we have had a very successful commission. And this is a good opportunity to share some of our opinions and experiences with the city council and the city manager. So I think with that, we're done with this item.
Mr. Chair, what I might suggest is when we finalize the suggestions and input that have been made relative to these recommendations, I'd like to forward that to the city clerk to distribute to the city council and make sure that it's included in the backup items that go to the city council study session on boards and commissions. So that way they have the opportunity to review it in advance of the study session. So we as staff will take on that responsibility once those modifications to the document are made. Thank you.
So rather than our sending it to them, we would have the city clerk distribute it to them.
We'll do it on your behalf.
Okay, great. Thank you, Flynn.
Do we know if there is going to be a study session? That was unclear in that last meeting, in the last council.
Yes, there will be a study session. It has been tentatively set for June the 21st.
Okay,
You will note on your next agenda item
right.
that there is a request to move your meeting date, and it's because of that study session.
That was why I asked. Okay. Commissioner Clark, are we ready to move on?
Yes,
Okay, so the next item is the day and time of the next commission meeting. It would be scheduled to be June 21st, but there is a study session and we may need to be able to be present at that study session, scheduled to be the 21st. So we had considered seeing if it was possible for the commissioners to meet at the same time and format on Monday, June 20th, instead of Tuesday, June 21st. Can you check your calendars and let us, can you let us know now, or do we need to spend some time over email handling this?
I can let you know now. It looks good.
Okay, Carl, it's okay.
It works for me.
Hmm?
Works for me.
Okay,
And me as well, thank you.
okay.
I
Jen,
will be traveling, but I will get on the call, and that will be my last meeting with you all. So I will, I'll definitely join you for at least some of it. So
good, okay. Jake,
I need to check my schedule, please.
okay.
Get back through email.
I just didn't hear that last part, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I said I'll get back to you through email.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Yeah, I'm slightly hard of hearing, so I miss things once in a while.
No worries. Sorry, Don.
It's okay. Okay, so then we move to subcommittee and commissioner reports. Scour.
Thank you, Chair Barrett. My apologies. It was an oversight. Sorry, I meant to click share screen. The report did not make it into the agenda packet. But I do have it here. Can everyone see the report as I will go through highlighting mostly 1383 and the foodware ordinance? As Deputy City Manager Fagg stated at the beginning of the meeting, the franchise agreement will be on the May 26th City Council agenda. City staff and Palm Springs Disposal Services anticipate the Prop 218 mailer going out the week of July 11th. As a reminder, the Prop 218 notification is legally necessary when there are proposed rate increases. So those will be going out to all residents in Palm Springs. And then the hearing date for the Prop 218 notification will be scheduled for September 1st. So that will be for anyone contesting the proposed rate increases. We did receive notification on April 27th that we did receive a grant through SB 1383 in the amount of $68,329. These funds will primarily go towards the purchase of mulch under the procurement mandate from SB 1383. Let's see, Cal Recycle did notify the city since our last meeting. This was something that we had not anticipated, but that because Palm Springs Unified School District office is located in the city of Palm Springs, the default responsibility will fall on our city for all outreach and education to schools within the school district. So there are 28 different school sites within Palm Springs Unified. Staff is in the process of working with and coordinating with the other sustainability departments, with the other 8 jurisdictions in Coachella Valley, so that we can partner and work in coordination, both out of respect to the other jurisdictions, but also to be effective. Again, CalRecycle has defaulted that responsibility to Palm Springs, so that is in process. Let's see, city staff and Palm Springs disposal. We've been continuing site visits, primarily to HOAs of multifamily units. There are concerns with spacing requirements in terms of where the 3 sorting system will fit in each of these spaces. So we have gotten very creative, suggesting different carts and bins to be turned on their side. Also, the intent is for those landfill containers to receive less deposits, and for both the recycling and organic waste to increase. So we are working with the multifamily units, again, doing site visits one by one, and addressing concerns and being helpful. And also, as the program rolls out with the October 1st implementation date for residential, we'll be able to adjust accordingly as they're needed. We also have been getting a lot of requests for multifamily units as to can 1 to 5 gallon containers be provided for the individual residences to collect the food waste when they take them down to the primary collection areas. So that is not something that Palm Springs Disposal Services is offering. So city staff has been working on getting some prices together, some quotes, and letting HOAs know that they could apply under our sustainability scholarship for reimbursement if they purchase 1 gallon containers or up to 5 gallon containers. So that is another project that is in process. Let's see, another item for SB 1383 is capacity planning. Our capacity planning is due to Riverside County actually by July 1st. So we are working on that. What capacity planning is right now tier 1 food providers, which is primarily grocery stores, are mandated under 1383 to donate edible food that is not expired. Here in Coachella Valley, that would be donating to Find Food Bank. Beginning January 1st of 2023, it will include tier 2 businesses, which will expand the number of businesses with the food donations. So written agreements need to be in place with each of those tier 1 and tier 2 food providers. So that is another project that staff is in the process of working on. Let's see. During the meeting, Chair Clark inquired if mulch will be provided to residents on a no-cost basis. This is because we're mandated to purchase 3,820 tons of mulch under the requirements of SB 1383. The majority of that mulch can be applied to our city parks, but any remaining amount could certainly be provided at no cost to residents, similar to how we offer sandbags to residents. So city staff is working internally to identify what location we could establish a free mulch pickup location. We'll be discussing these items. We're missing some of our members at the May date, so these are conversations that are going to continue at the June Scour meeting as well. SB 1383 requires stickers to be applied to all refuse containers. So PSDS will begin doing that during the month of June. These stickers require more visuals per the state's requirements as opposed to words. This is so that there isn't a loss of a language barrier, so image heavy, text low. Also, each of the stickers will contain a QR code. So for those residents who want to utilize their smartphone, take a picture of that QR code. It will then take them to Palm Springs Disposal's website and give an expanded list of all of the acceptable items for your blue recycling carts for those green organic carts, also what's acceptable in the landfill carts. Let's see, we did do another presentation to the 1PS group on May 10th, again, taking advantage of all opportunities to present the information to residents so that they are as well informed as possible. Let's see, residents continue to ask which kind of items go into which bin, so that information is included on both the city's website and also PSDS's website. Part of the SB 1383 requirements mandates that the waste hauler provide notification to all customers, so that would be residential and commercial, of the changes and everything that's involved in SB 1383. So staff is working with PSDS to make sure that the information is in that letter and that it does go out in a timely fashion under state requirements. So many things going on with SB 1383. Anyone who wants to join us for the June meeting, that will be held on June 2nd at 2 p.m. If you want to comment on anything 1383 related. Moving on to the foodware ordinance, Recreate Waste Collaborative. They are in town this week, performing additional on-site visits to our businesses. Abby and Associates will be in town next week, performing additional on-site visits. To date, all food provider businesses have received communications between the two consultants. That's either in person, by phone, or by email. Since the start of the program in January, the majority have had on-site in-person visits. Both consultants have brought up the issue, or not, I take back that word issue, but questioning enforcement and what type of enforcement the city is going to perform for those businesses that are not adhering to the ordinance. So that's something that the subcommittee can also discuss. The way that the ordinance is written is that it would go from a warning, after a warning, then a $100 fine, then a $250 fine, and a $500 fine being the fourth infraction. And that would be on an annual basis. Again, we'll be discussing that at the next subcommittee meeting. We've also been discussing a recognition program because we want to recognize those businesses that are doing outstanding jobs. There are a great number of businesses that did not have sustainable initiatives implemented at their businesses. So they're not only coming on board under compliance with the foodware ordinance, but just making sustainable improvements in general. So that is really exciting. So at the next subcommittee meeting, we want to discuss what kind of recognition we can highlight to those businesses. So to have an ongoing discussion. And also I imagine that further decisions will be made when the sustainability director is selected. Let's see, Chair Clark requested an update for McDonald's and Starbucks at the June meeting. With some of our chain businesses, they are a little bit, there's more of a process for them to implement. And so for McDonald's, for example, we had some reusable products that were being piloted at the Berkeley location. However, McDonald's corporate office has put a halt to that, and they're doing additional testing of those reusable products. So that that has really put a hold on that for now. Starbucks compliance, we've had some positive wins there, but not consistent at the different locations here in Palm Springs. So city staff and consultants have been in continued discussions with the district area manager. It really is continual staff training. It's for the frontline staff, and you know, whether it is if you're enjoying your product on site or if you're taking it with you. With coffee shops, there is that additional challenge where folks will enjoy part of their coffee beverage on site, and then they'll enjoy the rest of their coffee beverage off-site. So we're understanding of that, but also continuing to speak with our chain food vendors to help them with their implementation as much as we can. Chair Clark also inquired about an update on the compostable materials of what is going to be accepted at Vertex Edom Hill facility. Staff has asked for Palm Springs Disposal Services to collect that in writing, because there is some conflicting information as to whether or not those fiber-based compostable materials are accepted or if they aren't accepted. Again, that information has been translated by Palm Springs Disposal Services as no, they won't. And then it's also been translated as to yes, they will. So we have asked to receive it in writing, the exact compostable products that are accepted and that are not accepted. At this May 5th meeting, Liz Hernandez had stated the fiber-based compostable products, which would be, an example would be a clamshell, would be accepted at Edom Hill, where compostable cutlery in the form of forks, knives, and spoons are not accepted. And the reason is because of the length of time, the difference in time that those compostable products break down. So again, staff has asked for Palm Springs Disposal Services to obtain that in writing so that we are absolutely clear on which products are going to be accepted at the Edom Hill facility and which will not be. There was a request, which jurisdictions have foodware ordinances and where they are at. I can stop sharing this and I can share this document. Okay. This data is from Upstream Solutions. We had a meeting with the consultants. We meet once a month as a group to talk about challenges, wins, losses. We also were talking about which jurisdictions have food ordinances in the state of California. So this is the most up-to-date list. So Arcata, Berkeley, Culver City, Fairfax, Marin's ordinance is the most recent that was approved. That was on May 10th. Pacifica, of course, Palm Springs, San Anselmo, San Francisco, San Luis Obispo, Santa Cruz, Santa Rosa, and Watsonville. That is a comprehensive list of the current cities that have foodware ordinances. And Upstream Solutions is working with these. They're also working on them at a not outside of California as well. But this is the most recent list of those jurisdictions, and I will go back to the report. Let's see, with the foodware scholarships that we have been promoting, the scholarships do follow our fiscal year. So we are asking businesses to submit their scholarships no later than June 10th as the cutoff date. This is to accommodate staff to review and approve applications and provide those to our finance department so that reimbursements can be provided. For the 22-23 fiscal year budget, we have also requested that these scholarships be awarded again, both foodware and also our regular sustainability scholarships. And then the third scholarship we've requested in the budget is for the residential energy efficiency program that we have previously discussed. Let's see, for downtown trash can signage, nothing new to report. There are still stickers on the recycling containers. One of the things that we're considering are, since the state is mandating that stickers be placed on refuse containers, using the same stickers that Palm Springs Disposal Services is developing so that we would have consistency, so that those residents here in Palm Springs, they're recognizing them from their own containers, and then also seeing those same educational stickers on the downtown trash cans. So Palm Springs Disposal Services, they're going to provide us with a mock-up, as they haven't received those stickers yet. And so that we can apply a mock-up to one of the recycling containers, take photos of that, share that with the subcommittee, and make a decision, whether or not we want to try that as another option for signage. From previous assessments that we have done, it seems as though the education still needs to be enhanced, because people are still putting products in recycling that are not recyclable materials. Let's see, non-compliance numbers. So some of these figures have been updated, and this is through the use of visiting businesses for both recycling compliance and also with the organics compliance. So those businesses that are subject to AB 341, which is recycling, we have only 17% that are not in compliance. For multifamily, we are down to 15% that aren't in compliance. So citywide, those are still good figures in terms of the number of businesses and multifamilies that are actively recycling. Then for AB 1826, which is organics, for businesses, we have 41% that are not prescribed to organic service. Some of this is due to the fact that it could be the possibility that there is no food consumption on site, so they don't have any need for food waste. Another reason for this figure is their landscaper hauls the landscape clippings off-site, and so no green waste is ever collected at their business. And you will note that there's 193 businesses that have exemption forms that they have submitted and that have been approved. And then for our multifamilies, we're at 50% that aren't currently under organics collection. But please keep in mind that 1383 is not going to go into effect until October 1st. And we are including multifamily in with single family residences, so that all residential starts at the same time. So these figures will decrease and be more in compliance after that October 1st date. Palm Springs Disposal Services has asked the city to create a letter and send those out to businesses that are not in compliance. So staff will have a draft for the subcommittee to review at the June meeting to provide feedback and direction, and based on that feedback and direction, to bring it to the commission. Let's see. Of course, the ultimate goal is 100% compliance. So additional site visits. Moving to community composting. Community composting is listed as one of City Council's strategic priorities. City staff has continued communications with Desert Compost. As a reminder, that location at Alejo and Civic, which we were looking at as a possible location, was rejected. That is airport property. Airport property does need FAA approval, and only aeronautical activities can occur on any of the airport properties. So the FAA rejected our request to have composting and also aluminum can recycling at that location. So city staff is continuing to work and trying to identify other locations. Also, Desert Compost is reaching out to neighborhoods, and they have attended some of the 1PS meetings to see if there are individual neighborhoods that want to start their own community composting efforts. Chair Clark did ask some questions at the meeting. Number one, the value of community composting. And, it has been noted as a priority by City Council, but then also looking at our greenhouse gas reductions and our climate action roadmap, and that the encouraging residents to drive their compost in their own personal vehicle to drop off versus the industrial composting, which is state mandated and will begin October 1st. Those trucks are CNG fueled vehicles. The carbon footprint is smaller by the use of the industrial composting. That is meaning the food waste being picked up by Palm Springs Disposal Services. So these are continued discussions that will happen at the June subcommittee meeting. Also, Chair Clark inquired, how do we obtain feedback from the public as to how many people are going to want or prefer community composting as opposed to the industrial composting, meaning having it picked up from your residents by PSDS. So we'll be discussing what kind of options those are, whether that is in the form of a survey or do we do a mailer? How do we get those responses back from the community as to what they prefer in terms of composting? Outreach materials, continually improving on outreach materials for both 1383 and the foodware ordinance. With the battery recycling, we did have a little bit of a hold for a few months on obtaining our recycling containers from Battery Solutions. That issue has since been resolved, and we have those back in stock. So that is a positive thing. Nothing to report on public spaces, and nothing to report on the wastewater treatment plant. And then finally, the next shredding and e-waste collection event is scheduled for Saturday, October 15th. And that concludes my update on the Solid Waste Committee. Are there any questions?
That is a lot of material. Okay, we are ready then to move on to the ad hoc subcommittee on strategic planning and general plan update.
I'll report on that, Don. Actually, there's nothing to update on the general plan update. It was reported in the minutes from the April meeting that we had a meeting with David Newell to talk about elements of sustainability that should be included in the general plan update, and that's documented in the minutes. But in addition, we had a discussion on a vulnerability assessment, which David has been working on with PlaceWorks. And that really has to do with identifying the impact of climate change on infrastructure and various groups of residents. And I believe there's a plan for having a presentation about the vulnerability assessment at a future Sustainability Commission meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Environment, the impossible to pronounce environmentally preferable purchasing policy.
Yes, I'll report on that as well. The four of us listed there as members on that ad hoc subcommittee met on April 25th. We discussed a plan going forward. Basically, each of us will submit additional or comments on the existing EPPP and also any other items that should be included in the document. And several of us will be looking at EPPPs from other cities within California to see if there are things that we should add to ours. So the inputs are due by May 20th, and I've received several or some of them. And I will compile the inputs from all of the subcommittee members. I'm suggesting now that the four of us meet sometime anytime after May 20th, when the inputs come in, and prepare something to report at the June commission meeting. So we'll get back to you about scheduling a time for a meeting of this subcommittee.
Former Chair Clark and Chair Barrett, I thought my Brown Act Ayatollah duties were over, but unfortunately, with 7 members, 4 is now a majority. So I'm happy to drop out of that group, but we can't have 4 members on this committee anymore. So I can drop out, but it became a quorum of the committee. So we can't have 4 of us meet. It would be a meeting under the Brown Act.
I didn't catch that when I learned that Alex had resigned.
Yeah.
You have provided some information to go into that. So
I'm happy to drop out. You have my input. And if there are any specific questions on my input, you can reach out to me. But you have my input, and happy to have others continue on that process.
and our intent is to have something to present to the commission at the June meeting.
Yeah, but it's just that we can't meet, unfortunately, as a sort of ad hoc subcommittee with 4 people anymore.
Oh, okay, that's what it is. So that was a Brown Act thing I need to get refreshed on, but not today. But
It wasn't a Brown Act issue until Commissioner Ocañas resigned and we became 7 as opposed to 8. So that 4 then became a majority.
right, okay, yeah.
Yeah. What wasn't an issue regrettably is.
Okay,
There is some question as to whether that applies to ad hoc subcommittees, but I won't dwell on that. So we'll follow this plan.
It does.
it does, okay. All right, well, David, you're next, Solar and Green Building.
Okay, in between all of my day jobs, I've made good progress on the ordinances I've been working on. I received the requested data on energy use for the renewable energy ordinance, as well as the model ordinance for multifamily units for the existing home energy efficiency ordinance. I am working on the drafts. We'll continue to do that probably over the weekends, and then hope to have drafts of the ordinances to bring to the June commission meeting for consideration. There's still a lot of outreach and other work to be done. So hopefully with a new director, if we can get sort of the green light from the commission, I will then be available to work, probably wearing my CVAG hat on those matters, because a lot of it will be part of what we're doing at CVAG. But I'd like to, while my term still is continuing, formally present those to the commission for consideration and further input. Obviously director or, deputy city manager, if you have any comments, or, we can work together on that, but I'll send you the drafts, of course. And then the governors may revise that the state's 22-23 budget has a substantial funding for energy related matters, including development of the Lithium Valley area at the Salton Sea. There was a good article in our local paper about that the other day, and $1.2 billion to address additional residential energy utility arrearages. And there may be funding opportunities for Palm Springs, including further EV development, in addition to the Cal EVIP program that's existing. So I'll continue to monitor that even after my commission duties, and because I'll be continuing to work on various sort of electrification issues and can point staff in those directions. That's it for Solar Green Building. I'll have further report on DCE.
Okay, and I look forward to us continuing to work on this somehow, from what you had requested. Commissioner Futterman on World Environment Day.
The first round of submissions were due on Sunday, and we received about 60 entries, much less than in the past. So we have extended the deadline to next Wednesday, June 25th. We have very few literary art submissions. So if any of you know any writers, of course, there's a better chance to win when there's less competition. And I don't think we got any videos, so no performing artists participating this year, which is a shame, kind of. I think it's so nice to have these different art forms. So if you have any adults or any students that you know, if you'd like to pass along the flyer to, fly it one more time, that would be great. I remember that Carl, you offered to be a judge again this year. We'd love your participation. Any of you other commissioners, we welcome you to, be part of the judging panel. It's all virtual online. So let me know if you want to be added to that list. So now that will get pushed back. So about a week. And then June 5th is World Environment Day. We will have a virtual art award ceremony that Inlandia Institute, who is pretty much doing the writing submissions. They're literary artists. So they will be, Katie Porter will be our, what do you call the grandmaster of our ceremony. So I think that's it. Any questions?
David Anderson has his hand up.
No, I just wanted to say congrats on Katie Porter. She's amazing.
Oh, she is amazing. Yes.
In terms of video submissions, there is a person working with 1PS who I believe may be that maybe a source. So if you could separately email me the information to then send to her.
Absolutely. I would
Or I could put you in contact with her.
Sure. Either way. Tracy, I guess I can just find your email in one of our.
I'm happy to send out the updated flyer we updated today
Oh, perfect.
with the new
That
date.
works.
I'll send it out to the whole commission.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, if we can get kind of last minute participants, we'd love more. So thanks for all your support, everyone. So Carl, I know I have you as a judge. Anyone else interested?
I'm blind, so it doesn't work.
Okay.
Or not blind, but artistically deficient.
Okay, you got it.
Okay. All right. Dark Sky, Commissioner Connors is no longer with us. I guess we have nothing about Dark Sky at this point. Okay, bicycle routes and cycling.
Yep. Hello. I'm pleased to report, have a meeting scheduled for Thursday. So we will have something more to share with all of you on Thursday or after our Thursday meeting. So,
Okay.
and we're meeting in person. So excited to see some of you in person.
Do you have to bring your bike to meet?
Well, of course.
Okay.
We certainly, that's just my preference.
All right. Okay. Water conservation.
Quickly, the Metropolitan Water District, you may have read in the press, has implemented watering restrictions for its service area in the LA Basin. But any watering restrictions in the Coachella Valley, which have not yet been announced, would need to be coordinated among the 6 local water agencies. Desert Water Agency customers achieved an 11.8% reduction in metered potable water consumption per meter during the March 22 compared with the same month in 2013. However, DWE use per meter is 5.64% up compared with March 2020. DWA is encouraging and incentivizing conservation. I'll report back if there's any formal watering restrictions that DWA implements in the next month.
Good, thank you. Anything else? Any other questions for David about water? No, okay. Wellness, Carl?
You heard my report earlier on the smoking ordinance. It passed through the Human Rights Commission and is ready to go to City Council.
Good, thank you. Okay, and Desert Community Energy.
Thank you. DC will be doing its annual true up for solar customers in the coming weeks. We've updated the website FAQ and it'll be sending a mailer to solar customers. We're working on updating the DCE text on the Office of Sustainability website. And Tracy, I hope to have something to send to you tomorrow on that. We've been working on it this afternoon. We're working on identifying sites for possible solar and storage distributed energy facilities. Several of the possible sites are on properties the city owns or leases. So I'll be following up with city staff, including Deputy City Manager Fag on that. To Commissioner Baker, DAP Health has been identified as one of the possible sites, so I can reach out to you on that, waiting to get some data. The mayor included a few slides on DCE at the State of the City presentation at the Plaza Theater on May 3rd, thanking the residents and businesses for their role in helping Palm Springs achieve its 2020 GHG reduction goals through Desert Community Energy. And then finally, I ran presentation on the Solar App permitting platform and California Energy Commission funding that will soon be available to cover some of the costs of the cities to implement Solar App is tomorrow. The Palm Springs Building Division person who's responsible for solar permitting has said that she'll participate in the webinar. And I'll let staff know when the state funding program launches, up to $40,000 available for Palm Springs to cover implementation of Solar App. And CBAG Executive Committee chaired by Councilmember Holstage approved a resolution in support of SB 379, which would mandate the adoption of Solar App or a similar platform by September 30th, 2024.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We appear to be now. I'm going to go off agenda slightly and look at why. Have I missed anything? Nope. Okay. All right. We are at the point of commissioners' comments on and upcoming agenda. Let's do this voluntarily, starting with whoever raises their hand. Somebody, Carl, your hands in the air.
I was scratching.
Okay, David.
Do have one thing. City Council is likely to approve the budget at the June 16th meeting. Theoretically, it could go to June 30th, but hopefully June 16th. So if staff could perhaps give an update to the commission on what the sustainability budget will be for the new fiscal year. Obviously, this is a benefit for the continuing commissioners, but I think it'd be helpful to sort of know budgets, and obviously that's linked to staff. We traditionally, I think it's been noted, did have annual budget presentations, so that'd be useful.
Thank you. Next. Randy, you have anything?
It sounds like a pretty full agenda for June based on all the updates. So no, nothing additional from me.
I agree. Jake, you have anything coming up? No. Okay. Jennifer?
I do not.
You do not? Okay. Roy?
Nothing.
Okay. I think I've met everybody. The only thing I will say is that so far interesting. It's going to be hard work to step into Roy's place. That's not what is on the agenda for what I'm supposed to say. The other thing is that I just came back from 2 weeks of traveling around Nevada and parts of California, and I was shocked at the amount of EV charging that is available now stretching across Nevada. They seem to be doing a good job of making it very visible and accessible, seemingly more visible at least than it is here. I don't know if there's more of it, but it just seemed to be more visible. So
Good to know.
just a point. I think that means we're done.
Woohoo!
Any opposition to adjourning? Okay, we're adjourning at 19:26, 7:26.
Do we say goodbye to Chair Clark, or is there some?
He'll be here for 2 more meetings.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
And
So
so
we'll have to do an in-person one at some point.
okay.
Well,
I'll
an
make note
in-person
of that.
goodbye, not necessarily a meeting, but
Yeah, a cocktail or something.
Oh, that sounds good. Okay. All right. I'm a terrible planner for that, but we'll figure out social. social goodbyes. Okay, so we're adjourning at 7:27.
Thanks, Don.
Thank
Hi,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Right.